These past few months have been challenging, but nothing could have prepared me for last Saturday's events. Now let me first say my name's Luke, I'm Stephanie's husband. Normally she's the one here speaking and telling her own story. However, due to her instability and her current state, she's unable to be here. So I'm going to fill in for her shoes as best I can, so please bear with me. I'm going to be looking down to the script a lot, but it's what Steph has prepared for me to say to get everyone up to speed with what's going on. She's been fighting to stay stable since her last long stay in Emerge back in May. However, none of that could have prepared for us for what has happened in this past week. Unknowingly to us, August 29th was the last day of our then normal. In the early morning of Sunday at approximately 1 a.m., Steph went into one of her normal seizures. I was able to get her out of this pretty quickly using pressure points which we learned from her acupuncturist a few months ago, which have been very successful in getting her out of seizures within minutes. It did get her out of her seizure within about 1 minute and 45 seconds. However, then she went into another seizure, one I've never seen before, and it looked like she was gasping for air and she started convulsing. So more of a typical seizure, what you might be familiar with, but definitely not typical for her. And this really scared me. So quickly, when I saw her gasping for air, I called 911 immediately. I'll be the first to admit I'm the last one to call 911 because we've been in and out of Emerge for these past 8 years. And they take her in, they say her vitals are okay, and they send us home after having wasted like 10 hours of her time. Not wasted, but it feels that way because they can't do anything for us because she's alive and her vitals are good, and that's their main purpose. Once the firefighters did arrive, they had just been at her house the day before, some of them, so they were pretty familiar. They saw her gasping for air and immediately started taking her vitals, at which case they found her oxygen was at roughly 70%. So they immediately put her on oxygen. This is, again, totally out of the normal and pretty scary, and I'm very glad I called 911 immediately. From there, the firefighters called the paramedics to come on scene. She then entered a state called syncope, which is essentially between being fully conscious and coming out of your seizure. She put it as best way to explain it. It's kind of like her brain is trying to reboot. That's a new term for me too, sorry. She was then rushed to the Grace Hospital Emergency Department for the next 4 days, which are a complete blur to me. I spent my time split between being in the emergency room or being at work, and then we had friends and family which we're so grateful for, filled in the gaps as best they could as well. So there's always somebody with her, but she did suffer from many more multiple violent gasping for air seizures throughout this time. With both of us exhausted and after having multiple rounds of IVs and different doctors come and assess her throughout the past 4 days, they then deemed these just an evolution of her normal non-epileptic seizures and told us we should go home and, I quote, "We should go home and learn to live with it." Now, this doesn't fully explain the reason why I'm telling you this and not her. However, since her first seizure, she has not been able to regain her ability to speak. However frustrating this isn't completely new for her. Since she had COVID last November, she has lost the ability to speak after a seizure for about 5 to 10 minutes at a time during the syncope phase of her seizure. However, she's never lost her voice for more than 3 hours unless she's fighting some type of viral infection. Before Stephanie was discharged, having pleaded with the on-site nurses, doctors, as well as reaching out to her ENT, ear, nose, throat specialist, we tried to get someone to come and look at her throat as she's been having pills stuck in her throat. She's had pain swallowing. She hasn't been able to speak for the entire 5 days she was in Emerge. However, no one would take a minute to look into this further. We simply received the discharge notice and were sent on our way. We are now 11 days since her first seizure, and the longest she's been able to speak for is roughly 4 hours. We don't know why it comes and goes. However, on Friday, September 6th, she was trying to get some pain relief for her throat by rubbing her throat, and she found this fun party trick is what I'll call it. Try talking. Okay, now.
Hi, guys.
And now she can't talk again. So, yeah, we're going to head to the hospital and see if we can figure out what the heck's going on. As soon as we heard her voice, we were completely confused, dumbfounded. We had no idea what was going on at this point. So from there, we knew it was non-emergent. So we decided to go to the urgent care hospital, the Victoria Hospital, which is close to our house. This is essentially a step down from the emergency room of the bigger hospitals in our city. We figured certainly a doctor would find it interesting, or at the very least, have a duty of care to look into it, as she'd been at emergency for 5 days and it kept getting worse and no one even thought to look into it at all. The nurses at urgent care were also confused that no one decided to look into this. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. After waiting for about 10 hours in urgent care, we finally got to see a doctor for about 3 minutes, where he checked her airways, made sure she was still breathing, which she is. We know that from her oxygen level being back up to 99 to 100%, and then essentially sent us on our way with an antibiotic script. When we showed him her party trick, he said, "Oh, that's neat. I have no idea what that is." Stephanie is now 36 hours since the last time she was able to speak. She is able to keep food down more easily, and her last seizure was actually last night, which lasted about 9 minutes or so. However, her oxygen level stayed well above 90 the entire time, and it looks like it's getting back to her more normal seizures. However, her pressure points still aren't working at this time. She is generally feeling better, with the exception of her voice, which makes doing videos problematic, complicated, almost impossible, so this is why I'm here. She says fortunately she has text-to-speech apps. I don't know how fortunate it is for me hearing that robot voice all the time, but here we are. It's really frustrating for her. She has so many video ideas she wants to do, especially after this past experience. I know there's a lot of advocacy work she wants to do that's coming from this, especially having been sent home with the adage of just learn to live with it. I don't know how to put into words how frustrating it is to hear from a doctor hearing that. Unfortunately, all of these videos are going to have to wait until we find out more and meet with her ENT later this month. Luckily, they were able to bump us up on the list and we are on the cancellation list. So we're going to see her as soon as we possibly can. With our healthcare as amazing as it is, a lot of it is just a lot of waiting. As we meet with all her specialists over the next month or so, hopefully we'll get some more answers. But until then, we wait.